Hey, welcome to another Math with Mrs. Madsen video. Today we are going into an ultra dimension. We are going to see shapes that are not two-dimensional shapes. No, we are going to go into the third dimension. And we're going to learn about 3D figures and nets. By the end of today's lesson, you'll be able to name any 3D figure you see, and you're going to be able to work with nets. And you'll find out what those are in just a moment. Let's start out with though, what is a 3D figure? Well, a 3D figure is called a 3D figure because it has 3 dimensions. There's a length that goes like long ways. There is a width, it like comes out, and there is a height. That is how we get our 3 dimensions. That's also why sometimes you'll say it's cubed if you're finding the volume. Solid figures, so these solid figures are named by, this is how we name them. We name them by the shape of their base, the number of bases they have, and the shape of their lateral faces. What did you just say, Ms. Madsen? Faces, bases, what the heck? So the bases are the parallel bottom parts of a 3D figure. In this figure right here, there's actually 2 bases. There's this bottom blue section, or that's the top. The bottom blue section and this top blue section are the bases. The bases are the ones that are parallel from each other. They don't ever touch. Okay, and then we have faces. And the lateral faces are what comes out of the base, or what connects the 2 bases. So we can say that this figure right here has a rectangular face right there. It has this face and back that's orange. You see that in the back? And then it has, holy cow, we're just making this crazy looking right here. So it has 3 faces, 3 lateral faces, that purple side, the orange side, and the yellow side. Those are called faces because they touch the bases. So there's 2 main types of 3D figures that we're going to talk about at least today. Prisms and pyramids. Can you tell the difference just by looking at them, why one's called a prism and one is called a prism? Hopefully you can notice that these pyramids come to a point, right? They all come up to a point, while these prisms, they have 2 flat bases, and they're like flat on one side and the other, right? You can flip them over and they'll be the exact same, whereas pyramids, you flip them over and it comes to a point. I'll just fall over. So that, good job if you figured that out. Prisms have 2 bases and pyramids have 1 base. This flat part is the base for a pyramid. And then remember that the bases for a prism, the bases are the 2 parallel parts, kind of like trapezoids. The bases were the 2 lines that were parallel. Similar with a prism. It's the 2 bases that don't touch each other. So another thing that's different with these is that prisms have rectangular faces. And what I mean by that is the shape that is formed touching those 2 bases together. That's a rectangle right there, isn't it? That's a pink rectangle. And then right here we have a blue rectangle. So prisms have these rectangular shapes that connect the 2 faces. Triangles do not have that. Pyramids have not rectangle faces. They have triangular. Oh, let me spell that right. Don't copy that yet. Triangular faces. And let me show you what I mean by that. Coming off the base, we have a triangle right there, don't we? So that's a triangular face. And then we have another triangle right here. And there's another triangle in the back, right? Not on the side. So if you have lots of rectangles, it's a prism. If you have lots of triangles that come together to a point, that is what makes it a prism. So you kind of can call them at least prism or pyramid. That's kind of like their last name. They also have a first name, and I'm going to teach you how you can name them. There's a 2-step process. The first step will tell you its first name. The second step will tell you the second name of these 3D figures. So the first step is to name the base. What is the shape of the base? And if we go back to these examples, this was a square base. This was also a square base. So these two shapes have the same first name. And it is, what we do though, is we make it sound really cool. Instead of, if the base is a triangle, we don't say it's triangle. We say its name is triangular. If the base is a rectangle, then we don't say rectangle prism, we say rectangular prism. If it's a pentagon, we call it a pentagonal. Okay, and then square, we call it a square. I don't know. Maybe they think it's cool enough that they don't need to sound all 3D-ish. So, this is in your notes. Let's give these guys their first name. Let's name the base. If we look right here, that base is a triangle, isn't it? So we got to make it sound cool though. We're going to call it a triangular something. Okay, if we look at these bases, that is definitely a rectangle. So we're going to make it sound cool and call it a rectangular something. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sides. So we're going to make it sound cool and not say octagon. We're going to call it let me see if I can spell it correctly. Octagonal. Whew, there we go. All right, down here we have 5 sides. So this one's going to be called a pentagonal. And then here, this one's a little tricky, but the bases are actually right here. And those bases are triangular. Why did I put the bases right there? Because remember, the bases are the parts that don't touch each other, that face each other, and the faces go all around. So that's triangular. And then our last one right here is a square. Squarangular? No, just square. Okay, so that's the first step. Step number 2 is to count the bases. If it's one base and then comes up to a point, it's a pyramid, right? There's actually 2 of those bases that are facing each other and parallel with each other. It's called a prism. So if we go back to these, now we can give them their last name. There's one base and then it comes up to a point. So it is a triangular pyramid. On this one, we have a base down here, and then looking across from it, we have another base. So because there are 2 bases, it is a prism. This octagonal something comes up to a point. There's one base down here at the bottom. So it is a pyramid. Basically, if it looks like a pyramid, it's a pyramid. If it looks like a box kind of, it's a prism. Okay, this pentagonal thing has 2 pentagons, 2 bases. So it is a prism. And now we got triangular, we got 2 of them though, right? Facing, instead of the bases going here, the bases are kind of off to the side, but they are facing each other. So there are 2 of them. That is why it's called a triangular prism. And then this square something comes up to a point. There's only that one square. So it is a pyramid. We've got them all named now. So remember, if it's one base, it is a pyramid. Write that down so you can remember it. If you see 2 bases, you call it a prism. That's one way you could do it. Another way to get the last name is to notice the faces. Here's what I mean by that. These faces are all triangles. So if they're triangular faces, it's a pyramid. These faces right here are all squares or rectangles. So if you see rectangular faces, it's a prism. If you see lots of triangles like you see here, it's a pyramid. If you see lots of rectangles connecting the 2 bases, it's a prism. Okay, remember these were my 2 bases here. And if I look and see that these are the faces that connect the bases, those are rectangles, so it's a prism. And then the last one right here, coming off the base, we have lots of triangles. So it's a pyramid. Cool, huh? So here's what I want you to do. Name these figures. What's the first, second, third, and fourth one? Okay, pause it if you need more time. Here's the first one. The first one is called a square pyramid. Cool, huh? The second one is, we have a square again right there. A square, but this time it doesn't come to a point, does it? We have another square right there. So it's either called a square prism. A square prism is called a cube. That's the one that kind of have its own unique name because we see it so often. All right, over here, the bottom base is a triangle. So we're going to call it triangular, but then it comes up to a point, doesn't it? So because it comes up to that point, it is a pyramid. And then this one, are these the bases? No, actually these are the bases because they are opposite of each other. And those are triangles. So it's a triangular. And then the faces are rectangles, aren't they? So triangular prism. How did you do? Okay, so that's the first part of the lesson. If you want to pause here and do all of the 3D figure practice that I have for you, you may.